Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. First of all, I do have a shirt on. I'm not naked, don't worry. So a couple weeks back, maybe like a month or 2 months back, I don't really know, but a while back I made a video about Elliot Page. If you didn't see that video, make sure that you go watch that after this video. But basically in that video, we talked about Elliot Page coming out as transgender. Obviously, super exciting. We love when, honestly, anybody comes out as transgender. We're like, yeah, join the club, join the club. Just joking. There's no club. There's kind of a club. Welcome to the club. More recently, Elliot Page was actually on the cover of Time magazine. I think that he was the first trans man / like trans masculine non-binary person on the cover of Time magazine, which, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. We love to see it. For today's video, I figured we could talk about the interview a little bit. I can read you guys my favorite parts of the interview, and then we can talk about the haters. Of course, there's haters. If they're a trans person, they're gonna get haters, which is fine. You know, y'all are entitled to your own opinion, but it is wrong. Just saying. I post new videos here on my channel every Monday and Thursday, so if you guys are not yet subscribed, make sure that you do that right now. Go ahead. I'll wait for you. No nails. I'm still waiting though. Are you done? Thank you very much. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to keep us up to date with me as possible. And I also have a Patreon, so if you guys like the work that I do here on my channel and you would like to donate, the link for that is also down below. But yeah, with no further ado, let's get right into today's video. So the interview or the article is fairly long, so I'm not going to be reading all of it, obviously, but I do encourage you guys to check it out. I'm going to link it down below. That being said, I do want to read a few of my favorite sections and talk about why I think that they are so great and talk about why I love them and why I love Elliot Page. So right away, this is a quote from the first section, and it says, "I felt like a boy," Page says. "I wanted to be a boy. I would ask my mom if I could be someday." Growing up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Page visualized himself as a boy in imaginary games, freed from the discomfort of how other people saw him as a girl. So right off the bat, you can tell this is going to be a great article, but I feel like even the wording is so well done. A lot of the time, haters and transphobes will say, well, they're just saying that anybody that feels a little bit masculine or just likes masculine things or feminine things, they're being pushed to transition. Elliot is not saying that he liked masculine things or he liked to look masculine like in dress. He's saying that he felt like a boy. That is such a key distinction that not a lot of people make and not a lot of, transphobes realize. It's not about liking masculine things or liking feminine things. It's about your internal sense of gender, If I was still young and I had read this, I would have related to it so hard. Whenever I would play like imaginary games with my friends, I always wanted to be a girl. Like no matter what game we were playing, we could literally be pretending that we were like lions, but I'd be like, okay, well, I want to be a girl lion. So don't forget, I remember having thoughts like, oh, I can't wait to grow up and be able to do this or grow up and feel like that. If I had seen this article when I was young and, learned what it meant to have these thoughts about myself, I might have been comfortable with myself a lot sooner and I could have saved myself a lot of challenges and hardships. The next quote says, "When I asked how he was feeling, he looks away, his neck exposed by a new short haircut. After a pause, he presses his hand to his heart and closes his eyes. This feeling of true excitement and deep gratitude to have made it to this point in my life, mixed with a lot of fear and anxiety." The next paragraph talks about how it's this transgender craze and how it's taking over and it's going to be, affecting all of your children and all this kind of stuff. And it even calls out J.K. Rowling for, quote unquote, leveraging her cultural capital to oppose transgender equality in the name of feminism. I wanted to include this quote because it really points out that it's not all fun and games. And, people don't transition just to, dress up and live a life of glam. The reality is that it's not all fun and games, and it's actually incredibly terrifying to come out as transgender. There is so much opposition and so many people attempting to invalidate your identity that even just making that first step to just say who you are and express how you're feeling is so terrifying. I will just quickly point out that it's very worth it in the end. As scary as it is in that moment, things do get better. I just want to say that really quickly. Over the course of the next two conversations, Paige will say that understanding himself and all the specifics remain a work in progress. I feel like a lot of the time people are kind of nervous or afraid to not know exactly who they are. They're afraid that they're going to make a mistake and that they're going to transition and people are going to be like, well, I told you so. I told you weren't really trans, blah, blah, blah. And it really stops people from exploring their identity and exploring who they really are. But this quote just really points out that it's okay to not be fully certain, that it's okay to explore and it's okay to, question things and it's okay to try out different paths and see what's right for you. He didn't know, he says, how to explain to people that even though I was an actor, just putting on a t-shirt cut for a woman would make me feel so unwell. Shockett recalls Paige's struggles with clothes. I'd be like, hey, look at all these nice outfits you're getting. And he would say, it's not me. It feels like a costume. He felt exhausted by the work required to just exist and thought more than once about quitting acting. It doesn't matter how good you have it, how much money you have, how successful you are. Dysphoria is exhausting. It's like you're playing a role all the time. You know that feeling of like when you're out in public or when you're with new people, that feeling of like having to be on or like put your best face forward? It's like that times a million. It's like you have to not only put your best face forward, but you have to constantly evaluate every single move you make, every single thing that you say, everything that you wear, everything that you do to make sure that it is in line with the gender that you're supposed to be. Something that is so simple for so many people, like picking an outfit or putting on a t-shirt for the day, can cause extreme mental anguish for trans people. Paige emphasizes being trans isn't all about surgery. For some people, it's unnecessary. For others, it's unaffordable. The media's focus on it has sensationalized transgender bodies, inviting invasive and inappropriate questions. Paige describes surgery as something that, for him, has made it possible to finally recognize himself when he looks in the mirror. This fixation that the mainstream media has on a medical or a physical transition is dangerous for so many different reasons. Not only, like Paige said, does it invite these invasive or personal questions, it also diminishes a trans identity to appearance, when in reality, it's so much more than that. It's so much deeper than that. And it also can make trans people, trans women, trans men, non-binary people of all types, that surgery is necessary to be valid. There are so many reasons why somebody might not want surgery, and their identity is still just as valid. The next paragraph says, according to the US Trans Survey, transgender people of color are more likely to experience unemployment, harassment by police, and refusals of medical care. Nearly half of all Black respondents reported being denied equal treatment, verbally harassed, and/or physically attacked in the past year. Trans people as a group fare much worse on such stats than the general population. Paige says, my privilege has allowed me to have resources to get through and to be where I am today. And of course, I want to use that privilege and platform to help in the ways I can. Seeing successful trans people like Elliot Page or like Caitlyn Jenner can make it really, really easy to forget the struggles that a lot of trans people, especially trans people of color, experience when they don't have that same privilege. However, Elliot Page is not letting us forget. And honestly, I love it. Like, Elliot does not owe us activism. He does not owe us literally anything, but he's still doing his best to be a voice and to lift up others that aren't as privileged. Even if Page weren't vocal, his public presence would communicate something powerful. That is in part because of what Brooklyn College's Cura calls quote-unquote visibility gaps. Historically, trans women have been more visible in culture and in Hollywood than trans men. There are many explanations. Our culture is obsessed with femininity. Men's bodies are less policed and scrutinized. Patriarchal people tend to get more emotional about who is considered to be in the same category as their daughters. It is no secret that anti-trans people or transphobes mostly attack trans women, but that does not mean that trans men don't experience challenges that are just as real or that there are less trans men in the world. I remember seeing Laverne Cox on Time magazine when I was, first transitioning. It really made me reconsider what was possible for myself and what I could achieve. So I'm just so happy that trans men and non-binary trans masculine people can look up to Elliot Page and read his interview and see, what's possible for them as well. The last quote that I want to read from the article says, while the visibility gap means that trans men have been spared some of the hate endured by trans women, it has also meant that people like Paige have had fewer models. There were no examples, Paige says, of growing up in Halifax in the 90s. There are many queer people who have felt, quote unquote, that how they feel deep inside isn't a real thing because they never saw it reflected back to them. They can see that and say, you know what? That's who I am too. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not crying. But it is perfectly said. This quote perfectly explains why representation is so important, and it's kind of like what I was going off of from the last quote when I was talking about seeing Laverne Cox and how monumental that was to me. And while I think that seeing a trans person of any kind on the cover of a magazine is going to be influential to all trans people, I think that seeing somebody that more closely represents who you are and more closely represents your identity is just that much more powerful. Yeah, young trans men can look up and see Laverne Cox on the cover of Time magazine and think, wow, that's so awesome. They're finally highlighting a trans person. But it's just that one step further when they see somebody that is, the same gender as them on the cover of Time magazine and just more accurately represents who they are. Just like the article says, especially because there is such a gap in representation of trans men, it's just so cool to see that they're finally getting, the recognition that they deserve. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about from the article, but now I just want to go over a couple of these transphobic tweets. Of course, would this be a Samantha Lux video if we weren't going over transphobic statements? Come on now. I don't want to focus too much on the negativity because of course this was a really, really positive article and I want to keep it in a more positive theme for this video, but I do think it's important to point out some of the criticism, even if it is not very valid. So Elliot Page tweeted out the cover of the article and said, "With deep respect for those who came before me, gratitude for those who have supported me, and great concern for the generation of trans youth we must all protect, please join me in decry anti-trans legislation, hate, and discrimination in all its forms." And one of the replies that I saw was, "You are the complete opposite of being yourself. You're part of the modern poison to society." I had to just get a good laugh in, you know? You have to. Like, you're right, Elliot went through all this, the anxiety, the fear, the pain, the surgery, the tremendous amount of hate, just to, you know, not be who they are. Good thing us trans people have Twitter doctors like you to point us in the right direction. Thank you. This person said, "I just don't get the motivation of people trying to argue that trans people aren't the gender they've transitioned to. Just live and let live." Period. Fully agree. Because they force their ideologies on the rest of the world. If they just did their own thing, fine. But I don't want to hear about it constantly, for example, on a front page Time article. This gives me very whatever you do behind closed doors vibes. Gay people, trans people, nobody should have to live their lives behind closed doors. Nobody should have to live their lives in secret. If anybody should have to be quiet and live their lives in secret, it should be the transphobes. Like, I wish transphobes would just do their thing and keep all their negative and hateful thoughts behind closed doors. Because I just don't want to see that all the time. I just don't want to see it shoved in my face. For real though, like, I don't really care how you feel about my life. Pipe down. The last tweet is another response and it says, "Nope, not going to happen here. While we love all humans, we tough love them enough to speak the truth. We will not sanction or support your unresolved body dysmorphia. Why? We reveal an ideal rooted in reality, seemingly beyond your comprehension." Sweetheart, if anybody is lacking in comprehension, I think it is you. If this is your form of love, I'm all set. We good. Also the part like unresolved body dysmorphia, like, did you read the article? Elliot literally said multiple times that once they transitioned, the discomfort that they felt about their body resolved. So like, if you really care about how people feel about their body and whether or not they have body dysmorphia, you should support transitioning. Transphobes are wild, I swear to God. But anyways, you guys, that is going to be it for this video. Shout out to Time Magazine for showcasing Elliot Page. Shout out to Elliot Page. Bravo, brava. Brava is like the feminine version, right? Bravo. Period. Again, if you guys haven't read the article, I strongly advise you to do so. There's a lot of great information in there, and it's just like a really heartwarming, heartfelt interview, and I just love it so much. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up down below. Go leave me a comment down below, say whatever you want, say hi, say what's up, say I hate transphobes, anything like that. Like I said, I post new videos here on my channel every Monday and Thursday, so subscribe if you are not already and you would like to be. And yeah, other than that, I think I'm going to go. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in Thursday's video. Bye, guys.